Good afternoon. Welcome to the Finance Committee, November 7th, 2022. Well, who is the turn? I think it's Commissioner Mason's turn. If you'll say the pledge, and Commissioner Winters will lead us in a blessing, you would please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Father, we thank you for this community. Thank you. Part of the
Amen. Thank you. All right, going to our agenda. Welcome, everybody. And next, Mayor's report. Mayor Davis, you're recognized.
Good morning, everyone. I don't have anything to report.
Any questions for the mayor? Seeing none, going back to our agenda, budget amendments. Here on the computer. We're trying to get everything organized. Got in late. All right, first budget amendment, Bradley County Schools, Fund 141, $586,996.69. Money coming in, increase in revenue, increase in expenses. You can see she itemizes it in the respective lines right there. And you can see the description. This is 21st Century Big City University per E-Plan budget. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford, have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment. Also, Bradley County Schools, Fund 141, $262,322.93. Also, increase in revenue. You'll see the correction there on the line item. It's just a typo there, but need to be corrected. Increase in revenue, increase in expenses. You can see where she's work. I got it. Thank you. Safe Schools grant. This is a recurring grant. Do I have a motion to accept them? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment. You can see the supporting documentation. Bradley County Schools also, Fund 141, decrease in revenue out of the undesignated fund balance, moving into expenses. Music SOTA grant fund set up as a reserve at the year-end fiscal year 22, moving back into 23 budget. So it's an accounting measure right here. We have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on, there you see the supporting documentation. Also, with Bradley County Schools, General Fund 141, decrease in fund balance, $741,392, increasing the respective lines there. This is for their end of the year bonus for all school employees. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And supporting documentation. Okay, that concludes all the ones. Susan, real quick, with that being passed, and it'll be on the full commission's agenda, I believe, in 2 weeks. That allows you to have this by December for the employees over there. Very good. Adult drug court, this is the one that we've rolled. The amendment as it's presented is 30,500 going into adult recovery into account 5330, line 399. And then the next one, we kind of have to know what's going on. Mr. Meaner, we can't pass both of these because if we did, Renee would be over. So I presented what I thought we should have done last time, and we rolled it so that we could get some more information with respects to how much money or what funds are coming from different counties into this. I think we got that right. Hopefully you guys reviewed that. So what is the pleasure of this committee? And I'll open up the floor for anybody who wants to talk about it. Mr. Slater, please, you recognize.
So what is the balance in that account right now?
Well, we can't pass both of those.
So the 30,500 is an expense that we actually have to pay. Is that a correct statement?
That is my understanding, Commissioner Slater.
I move.
Oh, I recognize you. Say. Could you repeat that for me, please? 33,579. Okay, you got that?
I got that. So
You're
could
still recognized, yeah.
okay. Could I ask Rich to come?
Please, Rich, you don't mind?
Hi, Rich. Thank you for being here today. So it looks like you're looking for $10,500 of that, correct?
Correct.
To go towards your,
Well, we put it in a salary line item, but because we can move money from the salary line item to, or we're trying to move money from the salary line item to the community service that we had where our equipment was stolen because they said we couldn't take the money out of the DUI fund. Put it,
okay. So have you purchased that equipment yet?
we purchased most of it. We still have some equipment and we had to get 2 cameras and we're gonna have to upgrade our phone that our community service coordinator has to monitor those 2 cameras that are being, because we had no security. So
Okay. So you need $10,500.
well, I can do with 5,000. If I could get 5,000, I think I can finish what I need to do.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Winters.
If we need to pay it, we make a 10,005 payment, right? There are funds that we need to go ahead and spend, correct, out of this?
Correct.
And then you're wanting, where will the money come from? 10,500?
So, a little history here. So, you basically have 2 departments that are asking to have access to these funds. We cannot pass both of them because we'll exceed. We'll go in the negative. So, we basically have to decide how much to give each department. That's ultimately what we have to decide. It's not fun, but that's what we got to do. And the drug court has an outstanding bill, I believe, with Park Ridge. Right, this, I don't know how old it is, but it's outstanding. And Director Rick Kindlin has expenses because some of his equipment was stolen. You have received all the insurance that you're going to get, I believe, right? We brought the insurance in. So right there. Right, Commissioner Slater.
So if we pay the 30,000 and what I'll $30,500, and we basically have 3,000 and some dollars left. He needs $5,000. Can we find $2,000 to make him whole with the $5,000 somewhere?
Right, we can, but it won't be able to be, with this pocket of money, we'll have to go to, the fund balance in one of the funds to do it, which I have no problem doing. That was kind of the plan I had ahead of time. 189, I believe, is a capital projects plan, or fund. It's up to the mayor how you would want to do that. If we went that direction, 189 would be the proper fund you would want to go to if we wanted to give him some extra money for his equipment.
Assuming what he's buying is a capital item, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, we're assuming the lawnmower, weed eaters, and all that kind of stuff. Their phones are going to be recurring costs, so that'll have to be done a little bit different. Have you already implemented the security system in the phone system? Okay, so we got a little time to work that out on the budgeting side, because obviously you can't do recurring costs out of 189. Right.
What's the life of a capital item? Do you know offhand?
Depends what the item is. If it's like his lawnmowers and stuff, I'm looking at maybe 5 to 6 years.
But cell phones?
Cell phones.
I didn't think so.
We don't capitalize those.
How much revenue comes in this line in a year? Roughly.
I think this year we got, well, it has $33,000 in there, so that's about what we brought in this past year.
Right, and we're emptying it out again except for 3,000. Could you take the $3,079 with the commitment from finance that when this line accumulates more, and it will, you overdraw your line until it accumulates the other $2,000, and then we amend it at that time?
Right, are you talking about amending it before the next budget session?
Yeah.
Then I'll
Yeah,
I didn't
we'd
think we
have
were allowed
to.
to do that. The reserve accounts, we waited until budget time, find out what it is, and then budget it. But if we can do that,
You really shouldn't, but we have in the past when they've needed, when it's been an absolute necessity, we've had to do it. We don't like to do it because then when we come around to this time of the year, there's no money for them to draw on. So, I mean, I don't think a couple thousand would hurt it if we took it out.
right, because by now you've accrued that.
I've accrued probably a couple
So,
$1,000 in there.
Yeah, Mayor, I don't have a problem. I actually like that. I was going to chat with you guys later about making a monthly distribution, but if you're willing to do that on the accounting side, I have no problem with that. That'll make everybody happy, believe it or not,
Yeah.
until the next
Well,
budget year.
If you give the 30,500 with the understanding they pay their past due bills, and they don't make any more bills that they don't have in their budget, which is what these are, unbudgeted bills. You give the other 3,000 to them now with the understanding you'll come back in January or February and make the line right, then we're okay at the end of the year with the auditors. But the key in this is I shouldn't say we keep doing it, but this isn't the first time we've fixed old bills.
Understand? All right.
I move what the mayor's.
I bet.
You like that? Would you like to restate that?
Oh, well, but I'm gonna ask. So, Mayor, and just to talk about what you said, from what I've been told is they both have access to this money and they know there's money there. That it's unbudgeted, I think they would make the argument that it is, but it's neither here or there. Hopefully, the full commission will put in a policy that from here on out, when we get to the 23-24 budget, whatever amount is in there at the time that they request the balance, you basically say, Director Killen, here's your amount, and drug court, here's your amount, and it's basically a 50-50 deal. That's what I'm hoping, but that needs to be done at the policy level from here on out, that everybody's on the same sheet of music at that point, right? You can do your budgets accordingly. If we have a good year or not so good year, whatever. But I like your solution because it gets this done and over with.
So you would
So-
approve their amendment and
Well-
change the second one to 2,000. I'd
Well-
just say rounded 3,000.
Right. if it makes it cleaner on you, Renee, we can approve the drug courts amendment right today. They'll be done with it. And then in the December Finance Committee, have an amendment for the rest of what's in, I guess, this amount, and then whatever you come up with. 'Cause you don't know your full numbers, right? I mean, we don't know, you don't know what the accrual balance is in that fund right now, or that account.
What we reflected, not off the top of my head.
Right. Right, and by December, that amount. I mean,
I'll know
I'm
what
at the,
we've got
whatever the
through
committee wants to
November.
do. If you want to approve a partial part of it, knowing that there's going to be another part coming, or if you want to do it all in one, it's half a dozen, 60 other, right?
I suggest do hers, hold Rich's till December.
That's what I was
Get the
thinking, so-
balance and do the whatever amount you have at that time.
That way we keep it whole, keep it nice and neat, right? Yes, I'm sorry. You're gonna get all your equipment and other, but we're tapping into the next budget year's reserves. I mean, everybody should know that's what we're doing. But they collect DUI. Every county. Okay. And to me, right, yeah. And to me, that is a different conversation in a way. I mean, it's a policy question at that point. Do we ask the other counties to send their money here, or do we ask the drug court to go to each county relative to the number that they have? And Commissioner Winters, I'm gonna ask the policy committee to take this up one of these days. Obviously, before we got plenty of time before the next budget, so we can basically be all on the same sheet of music. Find out, because isn't there some of the counties, I'm correct, that they've what you do, they've outsourced it to other. They right, so they're not able to. So, and their drug court's jurisdiction is in those counties. So that would make sense that they should be able to request it. Where the other question would be is where does it go? If it can only be used for, right. So, but that's a policy issue. We're going to solve this issue with respect to the outstanding bill, and then you're going to get trued up by December. Very good.
Make it.
Very good. So, right. So we're all, everybody right here. Thank you, Rich. Right, so we're on amendment as it's circled there, page 18 on the top corner there. 30,500. So we'll adopt that amendment, and we'll hold off on the probation's amendment till December. So Lori, that one will obviously roll and be edited.
I just made the motion. I made the motion, but I don't know.
I'm getting there. I'm just slow today. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters to adopt the amendment as presented. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Everybody understand what we're doing? Very good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. All right. That moves us to, yes, Commissioner Alford, you recognize, please.
Still don't quite understand this DWI stuff. You say Monroe
DUI.
and DUI rather. Monroe and Athens or McMinn County. Who gets that money then? The
That's what I was-
private organization or who? In whose reserve fund?
The counties.
Okay. Right. Well, how do you suggest someone get access to it then? Their county commission. Doesn't do any good come for us. Not. Hmm.
You good?
I'm still confused, but there's a lot of money sitting there somewhere that I don't understand how they can sit there and hold it and not nobody has access to it.
They use that. What, the truck? So let's
we
do
would
this.
never have any way of accessing any of that because none of it comes toward Bradley County in any form or fashion. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori, let's do this. I'm gonna give you a homework assignment. If you can find out what counties are under the drug court jurisdiction, and then of those counties, which one are use outsourcing or privatization of their probations. I know what you just said, but we'll find out. And then of those counties that collect this money, and I'm assuming, Renee, they all have to use the same count number that you use, right? But whatever.
But they do have it. I mean, I did talk to Jason up there at McMinn, and I cannot remember the new lady's name at Monroe, and she does use the same account number. Now, as I said, I did not call Polk because we do not get a check from them like we do the other counties, but Rich does their probation.
Right, we have a contract with Polk.
them. So
So-
that's the counties that are under this.
Right. So, Lori, if you'll find out, like those, especially those that are privatization, what they do with that money, and that's vague, I know, but do they budget it or how they use it? It'd be good for us to know. Commissioner Alford, I mean, we're almost halfway through this budget right now. This is, I think, something we definitely need to take up at the next budget, and so we'll have everything in front of us on how it works. So, sorry. But this will give us information on how we need to proceed. All right. All right. Moving on to the next budget amendment. Vicky Town Director, she is decreasing expenses by a whole whopping $55, increasing expenses for pest control. Pest control again. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? We have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. General Sessions, Juvenile Judge, Judge Andrew Morgan. He is decreasing expenses from his account, 437 periodicals, and he has moved it over to 307 communications for $772.45. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Next amendment, also Judge Andrew Morgan. He is decreasing. I can't see what's circled there. Lori, can you see? Is it the top that is decreasing? Yeah, it would have to be because he's moving medical and clerical and Social Security into salaries, right? Yep. So the top. how dare he be offensive? All right, yeah. So that $13,897.89, he's moving from medical insurance, and he's moving into the clerical personnel and the Social Security. I assume the other withholdings, he's got enough in there, like Medicare and. Right. Very good. So, and then the next one, we'll take these both together. He is moving $7,668.89 from other salaries into clerical positions, so he's moving into 162. And I'm assuming that 1,307.72 is enough to cover both of those going into 162. All right. Because of that 7,668, nothing's going into Social Security. All right. Yeah.
Is this for a new person?
Is this for a new person? You can, Vicky, if you don't mind. Did you hear his question?
Yeah, is this for a new person or just moving somebody?
But it's an existing position. The judge has always had one. Right?
We've had the line.
You've always had, yeah. It's a new,
It's a new position.
a new person, but not a
Yes,
new,
it's a
new person, but not a new position, right? Yeah.
position's always coming.
Thank you.
Right. They're basically giving up their medical to have a little bit more salary.
And
All right.
There's no new money.
No. Yeah, the bottom line is good. Oh,
Accept.
we have a motion from Commissioner Winters to accept the amendment as presented. We have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Vicky. All right. Moving on, Deanna Hewitt, Program Manager Intern. $6,000 is decreasing expenses, moving it over to clerical, raised due to increased responsibility and workload due to staffing at this time. Okay. Trying to remember what account 54250 is. The grant, okay. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Then we get into the sheriff's office. Lori or Renee, aren't these all donations all the way to the end till we get to services rendered?
25 through 46 is.
Thank you, Mayor. So we can take all these donations, and I'll let Sheriff here talk about them. It's a pretty good thing what he's doing. But let me we're going to take pages 25 through page 46 is one motion, adopt all these donations at one time instead of going through each one of them. We have a motion from Commissioner Slater. We have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Sheriff, do you want to speak to these donations and what they're going for?
Very broadly.
Thank you for being here.
It's very broadly, and it's very, and I've talked to many people in the community. It's donations for the community for school security to make sure that we stay up to date and ahead of the game for school security. I want our officers to be the best trained, have the best equipment that we can possibly have, and make sure we're on top of our game. So people in the community have bought in. So it's outside taxpayers' money. It's from people who would adopt a school for security reasons to buy equipment or furnish those officers with the best equipment and training that we can possibly get.
Thank you, Sheriff. For the interest of time, we're going to take all these in one motion, but I encourage you to look at all the people who donated for what Sheriff just talked about. All right. Do you want to be recognized? That one? Oh, we're past that part. Commissioner Slater's right there. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Well, the fifth district's kind of rambunctious today, huh? Yeah. Page 47, Bradley County Sheriff, sale of equipment, $75. Do you have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? Have a motion from Commissioner Winters, have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes 5-0. There's the check. Bradley County Sheriff's Office, she's decreasing revenue, law enforcement training program, increasing expenses. This is a grant money that was awarded for mental health transports as of October 18th, 2022. This item has went to bid, and all bids have been submitted back by October 28th, 2020 at 4:30 p.m. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And there's all the grant documentation. That takes us to, I got page 53. Am I right? All right. Bradley County Sheriff's Office, $35,000. She's increasing her revenue. She's increasing her expenses. So it's money coming in. It's money from Securus. Am I saying that right? For a tech grant, this is the grant to help us pay for the JMS and RMS software. This amount was taken out of line. You can see there, this is why it's going back. This is why. I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented, $35,000. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Okay, next two are services rendered, so we'll take them up as one package. Do I have a motion to accept the last two amendments as a package? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. That concludes the budget amendments. Mayor, unless you got an extra one.
No, sir.
Going back to agenda, gasoline report. Lori, where'd I put that? Thank you. So, and you gotta change the view on this. So, real quick on this one, back when we put the budget together and gasoline prices were averaging what, $4.15 to $4.30, something like that. We increased the amount for gasoline lines in every department that had a gasoline line, and we said we would check on that to see how it was going, because we didn't know at that time whether or not $4.15 was going to stay there or if it was going to go up to $4.50, $5, or what have you. So Lori and I, more Lori than me, basically went back and took a snapshot of where we are as of the end of October. Was it? No, July, or end of September, because we just got October's report the other day. So the first quarter, if you will. And as we all know, perhaps that the cost or the price of gasoline has come down a little bit, but we were still, I think, in the right thing to do, the budget accordingly. Still got, rest of the year to go. But this gives you an idea of an idea is the key word of the budget amounts for gasoline. And keep in mind, I was talking to Cassandra. Some of this is tied up in purchase orders, so the numbers may be skewed a little bit, but they'll wash out at the end. So anyway, the moral of the story is we budgeted correctly. As of right now, if we were getting towards the end of the budget, if we were in like April of 23 or May of 23, we would have a windfall, but we still got plenty to go. But we're in good shape with respects to the gasoline. We just said I was just honoring what we said we would do and keeping track of the gasoline purchase, stuff like that when we budgeted. It was, of all the things that we budgeted, it was the most, where's my English? It had the most inflation adjustment that we had. I mean, they went from $2-3 a gallon to 4 gallons like overnight. Anyway, any questions on that? Lori has more info on that if you want to dig into a little bit more. But our next report on that, okay, thanks, will be in January. So we'll look at the October, November, December numbers, cumulative, and check on it in January. I have a feeling that tomorrow we'll have a big indicator on what that happens, right? All right. Not to belabor the point, but if there's anything else on there.
Can I ask Cassandra a question?
Mayor, please.
She may not have yet, but the sale of gasoline isn't matching the revenue from the sale of gasoline. It's just something to look at. He's talking about the gasoline lines looking good, but look at the line above it. It's at 76%.
if you, cause there,
So when you pay for an invoice or a statement, you have X amount of invoices on a statement. So in order for me to break that out, I would have to average all of that out. So what I do is I normally will take like one amount of money so that I don't have to try to figure out, well, this invoice, $700 of this invoice and needs to be paid from this line, because then I have to type all of that out to send over. So it should all even out at the end of the year.
So some of those prepaids that he was referring to, you've just done out of that line. And in tracking the revenue on that line, it's at 31, so we're still right on track for budget, it
Yeah.
looks like there, okay. I assumed that was it, but I just want to make sure.
Yes.
And for those that may not know, what we try to do is we try to budget a separate line where they sell other departments. Like I get my gas there and they sell other departments. And then we also have a separate revenue line where those other departments pay it. And at the end of the year, they should be about the same.
yeah, please, you recognize.
How's the gasoline supply chain coming? Are we getting a good supply of gasoline for all of our different departments?
I don't know of any issues that we've had.
Supply
that-
chain, we're good.
I know there is talk about questions on diesel, which wouldn't affect sheriff's department as much as it does ambulance,
Yeah,
but
we hadn't had any problem yet. Not saying that you won't have one in the future, but we hadn't had any problem as far as any right.
How dependent are we on diesel? A lot.
It's not us, that would be one of the
Another-
other departments
other
that
department.
we, the fire
Ambulance.
department, the
Ambulances are
ambulance,
diesel, yeah.
the EMS, the sheriff's office generally not dependent on diesel.
Ambulance.
However, we have the pumps at our location, so they're the vendor from us when it comes to.
Thank you, Mayor.
that's all.
All right, thank you, guys. So that's the gasoline, review. Next on the agenda, unless anyone has anything on there, reserve account review. Real quick, we went over this about 5 or 6 years ago, but we got new members here, so we'll briefly go over it. You see us amend money out of reserve accounts from time to time. It's usually at the very beginning of the budget year. Donna, a number of elected officials and department heads have reserve accounts. In fact, we just chatted about one of them. What I wanted to do is basically, you look at this document, this is the one I'm looking at, by the way, just in case you, is each reserve account is created by law, by TCA code. And there you'll see the respective TCA code, like the first one there, 39-17-420, is the law that created. And Renee, correct me if I'm wrong, you got the account 34520, and that has to be what the money goes into. Thank you, Sheriff, when the department head that has jurisdiction over that basically needs the money, or when they budget, they have to pull money from that, and it can only be used for the thing, for the what the law allows it to. So in other words, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the last one that was created by the commission was the archive fee. We created that, and it was a TCA code that allowed us to do that, and it goes into a certain account, and it can only be used for archiving purposes. Basically, Church Street now. There may be some others, but you can't use it for gasoline, so to speak. So when you think about these reserve accounts, they're very, the word speaks for itself. You can only use it for the purpose of what the law allows. And this is all of them, right, that we have access to? Now, some of them are combined, I believe, right? Not really, okay. Yeah. Make sense? Everything? So real quick, Renee, if you put X amount in there, let's say $50,000 in one of them, and they go through the year and they only spent 40,000, so you have a $10,000 surplus. It goes back into the reserve, not the fund balance or the general fund. So if you don't use it, it's not like you lose it, but you can't say, oh, I'm going to go buy gasoline or lawnmower or anything like that. All right. Does that make sense on the reserve accounts? Because yeah, I know we see a lot of amendments come through here, and they have reserve accounts on here, and it was just a good time to review that. Any questions, Mayor? All right. Next is speaking kind of a good transition into county clerk fee revenue. The reason I put this on there is because of what Renee just referred to as Gala's office, and that's the current clerk. If you'll remember when we did the budget, we put money in her account because the law changed with respects to her revenue, a reserve account, that the victims are paid first before she gets anything. So she was concerned that she wouldn't have any revenue. It had no money in it. Right. So right. So I guess my question, I'll try to put as easy as I can. Is this going to be a one-time thing like she did this year because this is the first time that the law is applicable to what we're doing? Or will it eventually catch up and that she will get her portion of the judgment? Right.
How this works,
Thanks, Adam.
then we will, it will level it out and we'll at least know what kind of money we're looking for to put into her reserve lines.
So going forward, I guess when we get into budget of next year, you'll look and see how much was accrued throughout the 22-23 year.
I can give you a guess. Reserves are about the last thing I do when I close the year.
But it'll be a good guess.
Yes.
And whatever that amount is, and then whatever her request is, we can basically take a request minus reserve, and that's what we'll have to give her out of the fund balance.
Yeah, she won't know. When I close the year, I send all these departments that have these reserve accounts, and I say, here is how much you have in reserves. That's how come in September, they start bringing their budget amendments in, because I've closed the year, we know what's in there, and they know how much they can pull.
Right.
So she will know then. And as I said, I'm hoping we'll have a better idea once we've gotten into this year with this particular year with this statute being changed to know how much we're actually collecting. Because she should be taking that money off the top before she sends it to the trustee.
All right.
So what we have in there should be what she's collecting.
And you eventually get that number at your side. Okay. So moral of the story is we shouldn't have to I say give, but appropriate 73,000 like we did in this current budget. It should accrue a certain amount. We just don't know what that is yet.
That's true.
Right. All right. Is that clear as mud? But it's important because if it was going to be 73,000 a year from here on out, we'd have to account for that. All right. Any questions on that? Very good. Next, fund balance review. Real quick, this really comes into play when we get into budgets. The mayor will tell you these are the percentages that are by policy of what we had to have for a fund balance per fund. General fund 10%, even though the mayor will tell you that he likes 20. And that was my attempt at humor. I didn't know. Road department is 7. Again, these are policies, not best practices. Schools is 5%. That is our policy, not the state policy. But I think Dr. Cash and Susan will tell you they like to have more than that. Debt services is a little bit calculated, a little bit different, but it's 13 months of expenses. Fire is 8%. Tri-State is 5%. And our friends over at the library have 0. Then the other ones are going to be 0 as well. Like 189 doesn't have a fund balance requirement because there's really no salaries in it. If we don't have any money, then we don't get to buy capital projects. So anyway, when we do budget, those numbers become very important. Excuse me. Actually, I'm gonna go back. We lowered the library to 0 because they had a fund balance issue. We should be past. It was a 3-year plan to get them back up. I don't know if it's worthwhile going back to the 5% policy or not. Mayor, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, we were at 5%. We went to 0, so we didn't get an audit finding.
That has corrected itself, so we've not had the issue this year and probably last year. But
But
there's
they
no
don't really
need to
need it
change
because
it.
fund balance, the whole reason for fund balance, especially in the general fund, is cash flow. So that you don't run out of money, you have financial obligations, and you don't write a bad check, so to speak. They don't really have it. We basically give them money, and then they operate on their own accord, so to speak. So that'll probably always stay 0.
At budget time, we just should not approve their budget to be depleting what we think the fund balance is, because then we get back like we were before when they make a request, we have no money there.
We basically approved higher expenses than revenue for a couple of years.
And then when I tell them we have no money there, they run to the trustee. Was the county about broke? They tell me they have no money. There's no money in that fund, so you got to wait. And that's because they depleted the fund balance before. So we need to try to keep a fund balance, but it's safer not to have the policy because the policy will cause us audit issues.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions on the fund balance requirements per fund? Again, this will come into play more when we get into budget time. Next, water project applications. I'm going to ask Lori to speak to that. We have received a few of them, but I will say this. Remember, we basically put a moratorium on the HCI side and using the ARP money, which when I was chatting with the mayor, reminded me that it has different ways of doing things because he has to enter into a contract and stuff like that. But Lori, if you'll tell us what Rakeshaw Road is and Moore Circle Road request are.
Okay, in your packet, you can see Rakeshaw Road pages 3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Page 3 is kind of an overview of the project. I received these numbers through Cleveland Utilities as this address lies within their service footprint. It's 425 linear feet. Cost per linear foot is up, of course, as everything else, for a total of $31,875. Utility contribution, they have committed $12,500. I understand that there are 3 existing homes on this stretch. The second project, Moore Circle Road, it's out off of Eureka Road. Again, it lies within the Cleveland Utilities footprint. This one's a 450 linear feet project. For some reason, their cost per linear foot's a little bit more, $86 for a total of $38,700. And again, Cleveland Utilities is committing $12,500. So combined, you can see about $46,000. The Moore, if I didn't mention this, I'm not certain if I did. Moore Circle Road has 1 existing home on it and 1 potential new home. Moore Circle Road folks actually did send over their well study and there were contaminants found. I guess I bring these to you because at this point there is not technically a policy in place of how to handle these water projects, and since I do handle the HCI public water funds, I've just been using the application form that we use for public water and then go through the process of contacting the utility company to get information to bring to you. So I just bring these to you today as 2 applications that have been received.
So the 2 in total equal how much?
Approximately 46,000.
46K, all right.
Isn't that right?
So as we know, we have the ARP money, the water bucket, and it still has plenty in there, even with the ACOA utilities, the Commissioner Thompson and Commissioner Mason put. But when we did that, we kind of put the cart before the horse, so to speak. Mayor, on that, you had to go and basically talk to COA Utilities to enter into a contract or an agreement based off of the ARP money requirements. I'm assuming that's what you're going to have to do with any of these that may get approved. Right.
Yeah, if you're gonna pay for them out of ARP, then we gotta go through that more formal process. And like she's asking, you're gonna need to do a policy. Those were 50-50. These look like they're 30-70 or anyway.
No, okay, you're right. So the utility companies, they were willing to do a 50-50 with the other two.
Right.
Or am I wrong?
Yeah, that's what I said, right. And these aren't
So-
that, so
So Lori, if you will, contact them, or I will, and ask them if they're willing to, because we're using ARP money, not HCI, that's been put to the shelf for a second, if they will enter into a 50-50 like they did the others. Well, this is all Clear Utilities, right?
It is.
A different utility company.
Utility company.
So we'll anxiously wait the answer. But that'll be our next step, is to request them to go 50-50 with the ARP money.
refresh my memory, Adam. In the utility bucket, we have water lines with Cleveland Utilities at what percent?
It is 25%.
So 75-25. How close is that to 75-25? That's to be consistent, we probably, if we stayed with that percentage, might fly. But we can't keep having different percentages. I mean, the utility bucket, they are doing some straight water lines, Cleveland Utilities is, that he's saying is 75-25. If you're gonna do it with
75 on our
ARP,
part, 75 on our part, or 25 on their part?
they're matching 25,
Right.
75. Is it? No. No, we're matching 25 and them 75. I'm getting it right now. So, and then with the the Alcoa utility ones, we're doing it 50-50. So I think we ought to stick with one or the other and not start a third one, is all I'm saying.
I agree with you. I don't want to make it any more confusing either. And
If it was 75-25, them paying, you sure on the ARP utility bucket, it's 75 ARP, 25 utility, right?
Mayor,
The TDEC grant that we just did was 25%.
Who?
25% was the utilities match.
So it was a 75% us and 25% them.
But
So
it's-
if you did it that way, what would that make this?
This is 60-40 on the first one. Rakestraw Road is 60-40 right now. 40% match from Cleveland Utilities.
but that was a different bucket, right? That was a quote unquote state bucket. And I get it. We want to be
With our
consistent.
bucket, we might ought to stay with 50-50. That's
So
what
I
we've
mean,
already
I know
done.
it confuses everybody. Is this bucket is the money from the 21 million? That percentage allocation there is from the state that they had to have all their paperwork in by November or something like that. But you guys understand what we're talking about? Do we? I mean, I say with the ARP money, and it's just me. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I know you will. We asked Cleveland Utilities because that's the agreement we went into with the COA utility. Excuse me. And if they say no, then we'll negotiate. But right now, I say 50% from us and 50% from Cleveland Utilities. But I mean, what do you guys, Commissioner Slater, Commissioner Knight, I mean,
I'm Jim, but what is, this says county funds can only be used for.
that's the HCI. Yeah, so little refresher. HCI, I think, this is before I got on the commission, set up and they earmarked water money, and then they came up with agreement.
Yeah.
It would be 25% us, I think, 25% the utility, and 50% from the resident. I'll be honest, we haven't been really good at staying at those numbers because we like our people. Or that's a good reason to call. I think one time we but we put a moratorium on that policy. So we're basically using ARP money, and with the COA utilities that we did for the 6th district and the 4th district, it was a 50-50 with the COA. We're dealing with a different utility now that probably is thinking HCI way of doing things. So this will be interesting to see what they say. Please.
I like 50. If we go 50-50, stay within the guidelines.
If you all agree, you ought to just have a policy out of this water bucket
Out of
that
this- it was a
we will
million?
match 50-50 any
How much was
utility
in the
that wants to
water
put some
bucket?
water lines out there.
Yeah, so whatever is gonna be in the water, I agree. Whatever, we have, what, 3.5 million?
Mhm.
3.5 million. Cause if we do 50-50, that's $7 million worth of water, right? As we spend 3.5 and the utility companies do the same, we'll have a lot of water. So let's go with that, and Lori will report back when she gets that answer. How's that?
And Lori can just tell them when they call that we've got 50-50 match ARP money that we'll grant out to any utility that's willing to go 50-50 wherever. That gives you a blanket answer. I don't
I'm
know
just
how it's
gonna
going
give
to
her
fly, but
100%.
I don't think we can treat them differently, the different utilities. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, 'cause they'll think we like one more than the other. All right. So thank you, Lori, for putting that together, and we look forward to your reply. How's that? Very good. All right. Mr. Alford, and then I'm gonna go to Chairman Cry.
Do
Mr.
we
Alford.
have a policy on how many houses, water line needs to serve before we get involved? We're spending like $40,000 here for one house.
I can answer that. No, because we went through this. We do not have a policy that there has to be a certain number of houses or residents, because we did one a couple of years ago, but there was potential growth coming. The interesting thing that I found when we did that was any new development or any new houses on that road or in that area, and they want to tap into the water lines. You can't go back and say, "Oh, back when we were putting money into it, you should have put some skin in the game." You can't go back and force them to do that. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, Lori. We do not have a policy.
It's still 40,000. Well, you cut it.
Mhm. I think if you have the policy 50-50, whatever percentage in place, the utility will dictate that. They're gonna, whether they agreed to go 50-50,
right.
they're probably gonna be less likely on a one-house road. You see what I'm saying? So that way you kind of put it on them. If they don't agree to do it, it's probably because of things like that. But ARP to do an expensive project down a road for one house,
It's not the biggest bang of the buck, kind of like we talked about with broadband. But it was a request.
Is the homeowner still having to pay connection fee and all that stuff?
Yeah, we can't go
I
on
know
and pay that
It's
part
just
of it.
for the line.
What's that, $8.95 or something? $9.75? Yeah. And that's the case with all of our art money, right?
yeah, I think so.
And that was the case with HCI. All right, thank you. Chairman Cry, please.
Thank you very much. I'm lost without the monthly credit card report, Mayor.
It's so early in the month that it's not really an updated report, but I'll go through the latest that we have, because most of them come in, like assessor's bill is through the 10th. Sheriff's is through the 10th. So having said that, fire department, the latest we have is all good. Assessor, they were missing one, but they did have a memo. The sheriff, all good as of the last one. The mayor was all good as of the last one, and EMA did use it a couple of local times because they had to have special fuel for a four-wheeler that the sheriff's department didn't have. But other than that, they're all good. Again, with the understanding it's not really updated because most of them, our meeting is so early, it's not really updated yet. Latest we have.
Thank you very much. For those commissioners who are new to the Finance Committee, we went through hell here about 5-6 years ago. State comptroller on credit card abuse. It was widespread, unknown to us. Someone did their constitutional duty, I guess, and turned us in. But we're trying to square it away.
Thank you, Chairman. All right. I think that's everything on the agenda. Last thing, just to report back to this committee is, the mayor told me, I asked him the other day, we have received the Republic, check, the funds that we annually get from Republic. It used to be called the sanitary money, now it's the Republic, obviously. And it came in with what we budgeted. Is that right?
Telling you from memory, it's a little bit more than budgeted. I think I budgeted $1 million. It was 1.1, less than last year, but I had budgeted it to be a little bit more less than that.
I only saw 800,000. Okay, I'll get with you later.
Yeah, you keep forgetting the two. But yeah, total I budgeted was $1 million. I think I was going from 1.3 to $1 million, and it came in at 1.1.
So the moral of the story on that is our friends over at Republic said they had a quote unquote revenue problem. It came in what we thought, just a tad bit more on that. So,
And the difference in looking at the reports is they replaced it with regular garbage, which is less revenue, but they made up a lot of it by increasing garbage. Does that make sense?
all right, anything? Open floor? Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Slater, Commissioner Winters, Commissioner Alford, Mayor, anybody?